Oh, I've got a this.
hand?
I'll do
That one over there and that one.
those two for our boys overseas, across the pond. That's a
They do that in Japan.
England. Welcome to the Amorous Armadillo. I'm Ramsey,
I'm Poncho.
I'm John.
and we're gonna talk about some stuff. What have you guys been up to?
I've been playing some EDF. We downloaded EDF 5 in the house, so I got it for Mark. And my roommate Jeremy also downloaded it, so we've been playing some 3-man EDF 5, and it's been a lot of fun. I'm sorry that you couldn't play Ramsey because you don't have any class. We've been killing all of the bugs, and we have been defending the Earth.
Is that what is EDF for those who
Oh,
have taste?
EDF is a video game. It's
It's like Matrix Revolutions.
it's really retro, even though it's still coming out. It's basically a sandbox where you just go around and you kill bugs, and you keep getting weapons that upgrade, and you kill more bugs.
It's arcadey.
And you shoot guns, and you call down airstrikes, and you call giant robots, and you shoot giant frogs, and you kill spaceships.
Giant frogs.
No frogs. Frogs are unacceptable.
Why? They don't call them frogs ever so far that I've found. But when they introduce them, they're like, they're humanoid aliens. Look, they look just like us. Like they have 2 arms, 2 legs, some eyes, but they're fucking frogs. They're anthropomorphic frogs running around with guns, just like us.
I don't like frogs.
Good. You have all the opportunity to shoot them, John.
They're
if you know what
gross
you give.
and rubbery, and they hop around in 3 dimensions.
These do not hop. They roll and they climb.
That's not a frog then. Have you guys seen the videos of those crazy like Pac-Man frogs and them screaming frogs?
I've known that they were a thing, but I haven't sought them out.
You have to check them out. So like if you go on YouTube and you do like crazy screaming frog video, like there's videos of people who have these frogs, they put them on tables, and then they just fuck with them. It's like I'm poking the frog, I'm hollering at the frog, and the frog just starts squealing and like sucks in some air. It's like. And then it charges the camera. It just keeps doing that. Video after video of that doing that.
And what do you think about that video?
I like them.
How many hours have you spent watching those videos?
Cumulatively, at least 3 hours over the last 2 years.
How long is the video?
They range from about 40 seconds to about 3 minutes. And it's not the video. People upload frog videos all the time.
Yeah, it's
So
very
every
popular.
couple of months, you need to refrog, basically.
You want to talk about stupid videos on YouTube?
No, I want to talk about frogs and why John is so terrified of them.
So frog is lying on front of you, right? Mm-hmm. This is why I don't like them.
Right.
Frog is here, right? If this frog was not a frog, this frog was a scorpion or spider or a roach, and he's here, with his face facing that way, and you poke him here, he's gonna go that way, that way, that way, or that way. But since he's a frog, if you poke him here, that son of a bitch can come right back at you. He can go up, he can go that way, he can go that way, he can go right here.
You know, John, that entire situation can be solved by not poking the frog.
It's in the way.
Walk around the frog.
Sometimes you can't. One time Ramsey had to save me from a frog. There was a frog on the door. I could not open the door. Another time,
Why couldn't you open the door?
Because there was a frog there. Another time, so I lived in this fancy apartment complex, right? And fancy apartment complexes don't have doorknobs. You have a door handle,
Okay.
and then you have the deadbolt, and then you have the second deadbolt, and then 2 fancy peepholes. So a frog had nestled itself in the door handle, right? So I had a stick, like poke, and it just slid over. And then I poked from the other side, and it slid over. I'm like, fuck. So I threw the stick, and it just stood there. So then I picked up some wood chips, and I threw it at the door, and the frog would not move. And then I poked at it some more, and I poked at it some more, and then 15 minutes later, I'm like, fuck this, I left the window unlocked. So I jumped through the window. Stupid frog.
And that's why he got a dog. That's Bentley's primary purpose, is to scare away frogs.
Yeah, how's he doing?
So he's pretty good at it, but what I was told was like we have some like weird toads that basically are poisonous to little dogs. So he's no longer allowed to sniff frogs. He can sniff dogs, but not frogs.
Ramsey, what have you been up to?
Holy shit! I can't even think straight after that. Mostly setting up this, to be honest, playing some Elder Scrolls Online again, which is odd because I sort of lost interest in it, and I getting back into that, just getting a little bit of Elder Scrolls-y fix. There's no EDF. There's some giant bugs. There's people also playing, which I hate. Makes it almost unplayable with their idiotic costumes and their stupid pets running around everywhere. But as far as game-related stuff, beyond the stuff that we just did, which was play Vampire, the new Vampire 5th edition. Finally, we did a little bit of play last night.
More or less.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I really dug it.
Yeah.
John, what have you been up to?
So actually, I have been reconnecting with gaming. Through my job, I thought I was getting my fix because I really like the social end of gaming. So like at my job, I get to show people stuff and talk to them about their hobby. And this is cool. And this is gaming. This is fun. This is what you need to get started with. And I wasn't actually gaming. I thought I was getting satisfied by that. But I started gaming again, and I missed it. Like, it's a lot of fun to reconnect with the game. It's a lot of fun to reconnect with people while doing it. It's been making me happier with everything else. Like, that was something that was missing, and it's making me super excited to do. Yesterday when we played Vampire, we got a little bit of that. Like, it seems like all we've been doing lately was... for RPGs has been stuff to record. And while that's fun, it has a different vibe. Like yesterday, we were just playing just to play and just kind of enjoying the game, enjoying each other's company. Like it was cool. All the dick jokes came out that normally come up with gaming. It was really a good time, and I didn't realize how much I missed that until we did it yesterday.
So this means we can never record an RPG session?
No, this means we should not exclusively record RPG sessions.
Fair enough.
It's important for us to continue to game just for the love of the game.
I'm trying to remember specific dick jokes. Or are you just using dick jokes as a placeholder?
Dick jokes is a placeholder. I believe the
For
topic
all the
yesterday
jokes
was closing buttholes.
Oh, that's right. It was. And there were, yes, closing also pee holes.
Okay.
We'll get to that. In case no one knows what Vampire the Masquerade is, because it kind of disappeared from the gaming zeitgeist for a bit. And if you're a new gamer, if you just started playing D&D, you're not going to know. Or if you never cared to begin with. 1991,
Sure.
the first Vampire the Masquerade first edition came out. Mark Reinhagen was the genius behind it. His whole, if I recall correctly, his plan was just to make a game that would outsell D&D, like create an RPG that would be more successful. And I don't know how much of this is real, but I remember reading that he's just kind of eccentric, and he just wanted to succeed at business. And as soon as he got the World of Darkness done and all the vampire stuff done, he just moved on to some other non-gaming related business and just tried to succeed at that. But I think he did come back to write a little bit of this 5th edition. Just a little bit of lore. I think his name was included.
Is fifth edition Vampire the Masquerade the game of drama and butthole closing?
Maybe on the second printing. It is the game of personal and political horror, which I don't remember. I remember it being just personal horror was the original tagline. Now they're adding politics, which is probably part of the problem, because that was always a bit of an issue of the older editions of Vampire, setting it in our modern world, or a fictionalized gothic punk version of our world, but using real world events and saying vampires were behind it, or some for their other lines like werewolf and mage and changeling, some other evil organization was really the person behind these horrific things. But I played some Vampire. First game I played was as ridiculous as the game that we played last night. That's how I approach it. I can never take that game seriously, but it's meant to be taken seriously. My group, at least in high school, really dating myself at this point, Werewolf was the first game that I played in the World of Darkness, and it's still my favorite. So me running Vampire for you guys last night, just put it all on the table. I do not like Vampire as a concept. I don't like Vampire. I don't like playing vampires. I don't like anything about the idea of the Vampire RPG other than it was quality. Like, I remember the Vampire books looked good. They were well designed. They were fun. It was a good idea. It appealed to teenage angst quite a bit. Mm-hmm. So at the time, I was really, Werewolf especially, was just like, oh, I'm just so stressed out and grumpy, and I could turn into a werewolf and be a hero. Power Ranger, basically. But Vampire was a great game. I'm fairly impressed with this layout. We did play it last night. So, do you guys have any history with Vampire the Masquerade or the World of Darkness in general, or White Wolf Studios games?
I'm a pretty big fan of White Wolf in general. My first exposure to White Wolf was through Vampire, and I thought it was really cool to read. And I went to one of the local stores, and I met up with I don't think they like to be called gaming groups. I think they're called troops for White Wolf things. So I met up with a White Wolf troop, and they were way too into it and way too serious, and they were obfuscating.
So this was a live action group?
Sort of.
So maybe we did both. I've run into that too later on with vampires in the groups. I actually like some of those people, but it is a bit out of my realm.
Yeah, it wasn't so much live action as it was guys obfuscating and then sitting at the table and playing. I don't know, they wanted to be live action, but they were tabletop gamers.
I wonder if they did both at some point, or some of them had a history with the live action aspect, and I've definitely known people who, when I brought up Vampire: The World of Darkness or any of these games, when they say, "Oh yeah, I remember that. I played that a bit," or I have my friend or my boyfriend or girlfriend played that, they are almost at least 50% of the time they're just referencing the actual live action game, and they've never seen the tabletop. Dice never came into it, so that's weird to me as an old school nerd.
But I think World of Darkness stuff and Vampire in particularly, everyone needs to be like on the same page. Like I didn't have a lot of good experiences with it because I was playing with people who wanted to be vampires. Like that's what their goal was. Their goal was to become their vampire character, and I was looking to roll dice and tell a story, but I wanted to crack dick jokes and eat push pops.
I ran into that was a similar, not situation or issue, but in high school where there were different groups. The drama kids were playing vampire, and they were just vampire kids, and so we had almost like a LARPing situation because my group we played werewolf, but then we also played mage. We played changeling and sometimes vampire. So they found that odd that we just played other RPGs and weren't just dedicated to being the thing that we enjoyed. Like, oh, well, you have to identify with this. It's like, also, I was a dwarf and I had a magical throwing hammer that flew back into my hand. Like, none of those things are real. D&D.
Okay. So I've played some White Wolf games, mostly at the store. I played through I think I played a vampire one once back when botching was a real bitch. I botched every freaking roll. It was freaking stupid. Prior to all that, when I was in college, I played with my group of friends there, and it turned me off of White Wolf games for about 2 years because I think the guy who ran the game wanted it to end up being kind of a troop. Like he didn't. We played D&D and other stuff like that, and I guess he wanted a bit more live action. And just where we were mentally and socially, maturity level at 19 and 20, it ended up, there was no dice rolled. It was more of a cooperative role-playing situation, and it ended up with 2 player characters having to pantomime a sexual act upon each other. And, I mean, something like that. And it was just no, I think as soon as that, the prospect came up of where one dude were going to have to pantomime, giving each other oral, and the fucking guy who was the storyteller, acting as the storyteller or whatever, was sitting there like this, all about it. Everybody's like, I have homework to do. We all just left the room. Fucking ridiculous. I didn't want any part of that, though.
The original World of Darkness was it was a really cool product line.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't seen at that point so many intertwined RPGs that fit together so well. They didn't feel like tie-ins to sell crossover books. The big storyline was cool, and every time they introduced a little tiny Hunter or Project Twilight or Mummy or the Gypsies, which you can't call them Gypsies anymore, but it all intertwined and it felt good. But I think that kind of made it hard to play. It always felt like you were a tag-along in someone else's story.
I don't know if I ran into that. I mean, but we played it casually, we really got into it for a few years in high school, werewolf predominantly, and then one friend really liked the concept of mage, so was like, yeah, take it, we'll play this a little bit. Or changeling. Vampire never really became a thing for my gaming group or D&D nerds, but I could see it kind of got out of hand. They did this big ending, they had to end it. I never ran into a problem playing the game or feeling like the overarching story was overshadowing the players. Because again, number one, we didn't have any super serious campaigns. We'd always start with new characters, and maybe old player characters would show up as NPCs or be a plot hook. But my experience wasn't major campaigns of World of Darkness stuff or attempting that. So it never mattered. The hero characters were doing their thing. They fought the monster. They were the monster. There were some shootouts. Everyone got new trench coats. The end.
Yeah, our games always felt like we were the extras in someone else's plot. Like it felt like we were following the leader's mission. And we got to do really cool stuff, and it was fun, and we got to take part in the story. But the way that it worked, since everything was building up to the end of the world, it always felt like you were, all right, here's what you need to do. Here's the plan. Go do this. And then when you go do the thing, oh, there's a weird monster in this cave that's phasing in spiders. Then you finish that and you go back and it's like, excellent, you found this cool artifact. We need this to prepare for the end of the world. Now go do this thing.
Yeah, I can see that. I always tended to like to lean it a little bit more personal for the players and have it be like that was the backdrop, and then the players, their characters had a personal stake because of a friend or a loved one or something tied to their history. But yeah, that can easily happen. You're I was seeing the situation play out.
Yeah, that's why I really like the New World of Darkness. The New World of Darkness changed from a story-centric, like a universe, to like a really open universe, and it was human-centric, which was even better for me. But I think I'm like one of 3 people that really liked that incarnation.
I think that there was a lot of people that turned off because of the change or the abandonment of the pre-established conditions. I think everyone was mostly on board with, yeah, let's kind of redo this. Let's start anew without that big story. Let's just try to... And then they just so substantially changed what those games were about when you wanted to play Werewolf. Or Vampire stayed pretty close. Requiem, I think, was significantly changed, but still felt like the same theme. But Werewolf was nothing like Werewolf the Apocalypse. And Mage, suddenly you're tied to Atlantis, and you're just casting lame magic spells. You're not changing reality. Nah.
Now we have this edition.
Yes. I mean, the only real published game in this line is Vampire the Masquerade, and then they've been delayed, but they've got the 2 expansions, which is still just Vampire. So there's Talking Werewolf, because they're going to do a video game. They're the same people that make Styx, the goblin, the thief-like thing. I think I'm getting his name wrong. But they make kind of middle-of-the-road sort of RPGs that have cool mechanics and ideas, but are somewhat clunky as far as the technology. So they feel a little dated, so I'm not super excited about the Werewolf game.
It does seem like the universe of Vampire, Werewolf, all that stuff. It seems like that could be a good platform on which, or a good foundation on which to build a BioWare style, like a Mass Effect style or a Dragon Age style role-playing game, where you get to choose a bit of the type of character you want to play, whether you're angry or not angry, and Billy will remember that.
Well, this came up in the news after I thought about playing this, and after I thought about we could talk about this, but Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, the RPG, the PC RPG, have either of you played that?
No.
I don't play PC games.
Okay, so I haven't really played it either. There was a Vampire game that came out that was okay, and then the sequel, I believe, was Bloodlines, or at least the next game that they made, and apparently it was fantastic. It was almost a BioWare level game where you make your character, you have all the intricacies of the vampire lore there, but it was very glitchy and clunky, and it only became something really smooth after several patches. So if you were to go back and play it now, although it would be dated, it plays and apparently is a fun and engrossing RPG. a sequel to that just got announced, and everyone's losing their minds. Everyone's super positive about it. Looks good. Developer looks good. As far as continuing with, they're going to do more games. They mentioned werewolves and mages and fairies in this book. So I think the intent is maybe to continue the line, but I haven't seen any sort of release dates for any more books beyond Vampire.
Didn't the company that purchased the World of Darkness from White Wolf do it with the intention of making video games? Like, wasn't that why they basically saved the company? It's been a while since I looked at it, but I think right now there's like 3 different companies working concurrently on World of Darkness product, 2 of which kind of overlap with the same
I think
properties.
It's just 2.
So is this an example, or the reason behind this, that White Wolf, when they were floundering, like just they couldn't find a buyer for like total use of their World of Darkness property, and so they had to like farm it out to 2 or 3 different companies. Like, okay, well, we can't afford all the World of Darkness, but we really only want to license it for video games. All right, well, here, we'll write you a thing. You can pay us. Here's your licensing for video games.
I don't think at any point in time, maybe the first incarnation of the World of Darkness had business people involved or people who were business minded.
Mm-hmm.
I think from there on in, it was gamers and writers.
Well, let me, just to make it boring, because I forgot that I can just look at the Wikipedia page and it'll tell me exactly what happened, because we're making a lot of conjecture. So November 2006, White Wolf and CCP Games announced that they're merging the 2 companies, and that's probably where you're thinking, because that was where they're going to make video game stuff, because they announced they're going to do a White Wolf MMORPG, like a World of Darkness MMORPG, and that was the initial idea. Then they were going to that never went anywhere. 2012, CCP Games and White Wolf announced they will not continue to produce tabletop RPGs. That was the end of the new World of Darkness. And Onyx Path Publishing, which was a brand new company, which was coming from the creative director Richard Thomas, purchased the Trinity Games and Scion from CCP and became a licensee for the production of World of Darkness titles, classic and new. So there's no mixture. This was all agreed upon.
Okay.
We just, as consumers, if you're not paying super close attention, it was hard to figure it out. But the only thing that I guess they don't have is Mind's Eye Theater. And then apparently Paradox Interactive then restructured and purchased all this stuff and created this whole new company, which is what we're dealing with now. So everything still exists. Onyx Path is still putting stuff out. They can put out brand new books under White Wolf, which then leads to the controversy that happened with what they printed, which has now led to a whole new restructuring of the company. And White Wolf now stepping back. Do you guys know anything about the controversy?
I do know a little bit about it.
The initial thing was when they put out a preview of the main book, and they mentioned Clan Bruja, who have historically been tied to some extremist Nazi-esque viewpoints, skinheads. I remember they were mentioned back in the first and second edition. They were mentioned that they had members.
Back in the 90s when it was cool to
Back
talk
in the
about
90s
Nazis.
when skinheads were just cool. Nazis were cool. We could just be cool, kind of pseudo-villains. They were World War II is long over. Nazis are just a concept, a caricature. Skinheads are even goofy by the 90s. That's a decade away from then the big skinhead as the villains in TV. The Greatest American Hero. I just saw the opening of that, which I haven't seen in ages. It is one of the most absurd things I've ever seen. It's a bunch of skinheads in dune buggies chasing a black man in a dune buggy, and they have like it's not Nazi symbols, but it's some sort of symbol. And I don't know what the hell's happening. They start singing.
Onward, Christian soldiers, march ye as to war.
It's
It's
on Amazon Prime right now. Greatest American Hero was a great show. I did lost. I was confused and lost and terrified by this was on TV.
Is that worse than the opening of Double Dragon where they punch your lady in the stomach and then steal her? Your brother's like, bro, let's go fight that gang. They just punch your lady and stole.
That's a clear thing. I think it's the same thing. It's a long drawn out, bro, let's go fight these guys. because they're making African Americans drive dune buggies in the desert and then hunting them down. I just had to digress because that's insane.
It's the most dangerous game, most dangerous prey.
Dune buggies.
People, but dune buggies are pretty dangerous.
Buggies are pretty tough.
That's why, especially back then, they didn't have the seatbelt laws.
Yeah,
so.
well, that's the easiest thing. You can get a bunch of dune buggies riding around the dirt. That's easy in the desert. But getting an actual car chase would be expensive and difficult. And they're just driving.
Yeah. With
action music playing.
Yeah, those skinheads should have been like, hey, here's some safety equipment.
So there was a bit about the fact, and at least this came out before the book actually published, but there was a bit about the fact that Clan Bruja are or have members that identify as neo-Nazis and alt-right. So the mention of the alt-right got a lot of people up in arms. For anyone who's played the games, it's like, yeah, the vampires they're set in a version of our real world. Vampires are not nice. They will ally or identify with a bunch of different horrible things. That's never been a thing that anyone thought about or consider or had a problem with. I think the problem is that World of Darkness has been very LGBT friendly. Like it's a very inclusive conceptual world. Like a lot of the stories and characters embrace that idea, and the community has always embraced the idea. When this article first came out, or I first saw this was a controversy, I know, John, you and I talked about it a bit, and led into a bigger discussion about game industry and what can get away with. But I was a little weirded out about the fact that this was a controversy. They seemed to be spinning it like they were promoting that mentality or that thought, and the creators, the writers came out and said absolutely not. The opposite of things, not those. That mentality is not welcome here specifically. They're just telling a dark story. These are dark characters, and this is it's a reflection of the real world. That's what they do.
So let me get this straight. So basically, they made Clan Bruja into Proud Boys, and people were upset because you're mentioning like crazy alt-righters and like hate and stuff like that. That it was promoting it because you could role play that. You could role play as a guy who hates gay people and immigrants and Muslims and stuff.
That is my take.
Can you not do that in any game ever?
Well,
can you not be a jingoistic anything?
So here's the thing, though, right?
In D&D or in Savage Worlds?
There's no mention of that in there. Like there hasn't been. So like if you look at the time between publishing, there hasn't been a gritty, realistic setting in a long time. Basically, the big RPG has been D&D and Pathfinder, and that's super fantasy. There hasn't been anything realistic. And in the, 10, 15 years between, we have a whole new group of people who are consuming this product, and I don't think that group is accustomed to encountering things they don't like in their entertainment. Like, I just don't think... I don't think it's been exposed. I don't think there's been.
Well, let me although we can if we've got the space, we can edit around the going into the detail. But I can read the actual article or the spot that they're referencing. This is from the rulebook. This didn't get taken out of the rulebook. Clan Bruja have always embraced from the ranks of those sympathetic to counterculture and revolution. They seek out allies who question normative ideas and recognize the fire of the oppressed. They gravitate towards the underdog. Common perception place punks, gang members, maladjusted immigrants rejected by the society that should protect them, and placard-carrying and Molotov-wielding rioters among the Bruja. While the clan definitely includes substantial members of vocal and visible outsiders, their desire for rebellion reaches as deep as the fraudster ripping off his own company, the lawyer representing the poor pro bono, the neo-Nazi claiming to be alt-right, and the basement dweller downloading thousands of movies illegally for redistribution on streaming sites. Fledglings embraced to fight and protest are commonly known as rabble. I don't know if the rest of this is... they also can be passionate fighters, but also critical thinkers. The Klan activists are... No, that's not making a Ku Klux Klan reference. That's the Klan. They're called clans. Yeah. Empires are called clans. So that is the part in which they include neo-Nazis with disenfranchised immigrants as being like they're all equal fodder to Bruja, which I believe is the point. Like none of these clans are good. That's been the theme of Vampire, and what I know about the Camarilla expansion, the Anarch expansion, what a lot of reviewers are seeing, the Camarilla, which are the organized vampires, the hero vampires, the Camarilla is horrible. Like they're evil, and they mixed it up a bit in this new edition, and it seems like they are just as vile as the people wanting to tear down the system, because they just mixed it up so where you can't really say that you are picking the lesser of two evils. They're all equal evil in different ways. So that fits the theme of saying, hey, yeah, the Bruja recruit from these people that as a person you may sympathize with, but guess what? This horrible person, because he's representing the values that the vampires care about, they don't care about human values because they're vampires. So this alt-right person, or this person who's a Nazi and hates a particular ethnicity, vampires, that's fine. Like, we can use that. They're just as useful. Like, that mentality is just as useful to us.
Clan Bruja is just trying to upset the system, upset the balance.
Any rebellion is fine, equally fine.
So whether it is people who want to isolate and reject and whatever immigrants, and the immigrants themselves who are trying not to be isolated and kicked out, both of those are under Clan Bruja, as long as both of those are activists trying to push their agenda and upset the balance.
Effectively, they're all equally
okay. So
good.
there you go.
I didn't think that this was this big of a controversy. This seemed like this was more of a reactionary. People were attacking them and saying they're all supporting these Nazis.
Play Nazis.
And these guys, a lot of these writers are coming from European countries, so they're definitely white looking. So I don't think there was a lot of there's a reason for the controversy. Why that they just said, hey, we are flat out saying no, we don't support Nazis. We're saying this, writing it here. This is the context of the book. These are monsters. We're setting this in the real world, so we're reflecting real world stuff. And it kind of went on, and it published. It's all there. Like, none of that got taken out. Then, when they leaked the Camarilla source book, there was a section about Chechnya. And
it all comes back to Chechnya.
This is where they really kind of screwed up. And I think their intentions were still similarly good. I think they still had the same idea. But this is where we run into the bigger problem with the World of Darkness. And they had set up Chechnya and all the atrocities that are happening there, and all of the values that are being held up. Everything there is just a shadow play to mask the fact that it's a vampire-run country. So everyone's a vampire. Every evil act is really just, all that stuff's still evil.
All of Chechnya?
Yeah.
So
I can go into the details.
Chechnya is a heavily Muslim republic as part of the Russian Federation. It's mostly lawless because the federal Russian government can't get any control over there, and that's why they were fighting for so long, because Chechnya wanted to be its own thing. The leader started arresting people who they thought were, like, the government of Chechnya started arresting people who they thought were gay and torturing them. And then when everybody was like, hey, why are you arresting and torturing all the gays? His response was, we have no gays. There's no gays in Chechnya. Chechnyans are too good to be gay. And then you got all these gay people leaving Chechnya like, I was tortured. He's like, nope, you weren't in Chechnya. Also, if I remember correctly, the leader of Chechnya started like a nationwide manhunt or something because he lost his cat. And like John Oliver made a big fucking stink about it. It's very funny.
It's a big stink. The whole thing stinks. There's a lot of issues with what they did. I can read you the bit from the book here and see how you feel about it. But
Chechnya is like, there have been like terrorists from Chechnya. Like, I want to say they blew up a theater.
The issue is I don't think there's two issues. Number one, they paint Chechnyans as villains. They shine a light on their systematic murder of gays and transsexuals. But so that pissed off Chechnya. Like they threatened lawsuits and violence. Like I don't know violence, but definitely lawsuits. Like they're angry. Russia's angry. Everyone's angry at this publishing company. So it created almost a small international incident because of this. But it didn't get brought up because of that. It got brought up because the feeling is that you're taking a real world, currently happening atrocity and a real issue with real problems and questions and different layers, and you're saying it's the leader of the country is, in fact, a thin-blooded vampire. Everyone's a vampire. While all these things are happening, they're happening not because there's an ideological reason. They're being puppeted by the Assamites, who are kind of a Middle Eastern, Muslimish type clan of vampires, which is not what's going on in Chechnya. They're separate. They kind of were insensitive about the real world aspects, and when they made this really just a smokescreen for vampires, you seems to belittle the actual atrocity that's going on. It's similar to what we talked about during 9/11, or not during 9/11, but in response to 9/11. I think we discussed this. White Wolf, for their New World of Darkness, I think New World of Darkness was happening, or whatever time, they said, in our world, the towers didn't go down. There's too much darkness here, the tower's not going down. They didn't address, if they had said in their war version of the World of Darkness that the Twin Towers was actually a Pentex plot by, to make the worm come out, or bring the Weaver plot, or some werewolves were trying to stop the Weaver from taking over, like, that would have been freaking horrible. And it's
cool to do something for your own group where you make Chechnya the bad guy, if you know it's not going to offend anyone in your group, if there's no one close to it. Like, what you do at your table is pretty different than making a product that is taking something that is currently happening. I run into the same thing with historical miniature games. I don't like playing World War II or Vietnam. I don't like looking into a game source book and seeing a picture of a guy that I could then go find his lineage and find his descendants. It's like, that's weird.
Definitely, I think we played Vampire last night. I prefer the World of Darkness to not be our world. I prefer a fictional city. I prefer the DC Comics approach of, we're just playing in you could expect the things that you can expect in a modern age, but it's not the real world. We just ignore that. Then you can let these stupid organizations happen. You can let there be an evil a group in charge of things. You can have a version of a foreign country that's really just Latveria, where Doctor Doom's in charge. Like, you can play with those concepts, but you can let it be fun and relaxing. We're not trying to change the world. We're just having fun with the game. So it's weird. I don't fault the writers for doing this. I think a lot of people reacted to this, especially this one. The section of the book, I can read you the part if you want to hear what they said and how they worded it.
Sure.
If you want. So the reoccurring international controversy over the persecution of homosexuals is a clever media manipulation designed to keep the focus on Sharia law away from the true inner workings of the Republic. While homosexuals are indeed held in detention facilities for days, and humiliated, starved, tortured, and eventually fed upon and killed, this is not the point. The point is to distract from the truth of what Chechnya has become. This said, even among the kindred, any kind of homosexual behavior is punished harshly. There is, unfortunately, nothing we can do for our brothers and sisters in Chechnya who suffer under this. Interference is ill-advised at this point, but should any kindred or even kind seek asylum within regnums under our control, granting it may win allies to our side who are not just well-trained in combat and thankful to us, but also knowledgeable in the ways of people who might already be preparing to attack us. And this is sort of meant, like, this is written in universe. Like, so
this is supposed, like, is this in the section of the book that's supposed to be explaining the World of Darkness world?
Yes.
Okay.
But
so
it's written
this
from,
is like
a
a big section in the
character's
front that's like the lore.
This is in the lore section where it's written from, like, a character's perspective.
Okay.
So, like, really, I don't think this was something that an editor maybe should have read, highlighted, and like, I don't know if we should do this. But from a creator's standpoint, I personally don't see that they were doing anything wrong or trying to push an agenda. They felt like they saw an atrocity. Let's use this atrocity and let's put it within the realm of kindred. I think that's a bad call, but I don't think that it's
in poor taste.
Yes.
To do that in general, and it seems like that's a really amateur mistake to make for a company that wants to sell a product. That's straight out not knowing your audience at all.
And because of the reaction to this, Paradox has restructured White Wolf Studios, these people who are no longer in charge of creating the games, It will be outsourced to. They'll be licensed to third-party publishers. Modifius Entertainment, who put this out, who printed this, is going to now be in charge of the publishing end of it and choosing who does what. White Wolf Studios will still exist. All the creators will still exist, but they'll be like the lore fact checkers of the game. So their job is to make sure it consistently stays with White Wolf. So no one apparently lost their jobs over this, but they restructured the company in response to this, and they canceled the printing of the 2 source books, and put that on delay so they can rewrite them and so they don't come out with that aspect in the print versions. And the PDFs are being redone.
Why didn't they just flip that? Why didn't they let the guys who have been writing the lore forever, like, still write the lore, but you have a guy over like, dude, man, what have I been telling you? You can't take this 1-year-old fucking tragedy and put it in your game and own it. You can't do that.
I think that's 2 strikes, you're out. Strike number 1 was the first thing.
But it's the same thing. It was all in the same book, correct?
No, the first part was in part of the Vampire book, which I think they let slide because it's part of the legacy of Vampire. The Brujah do have connections with the neo-Nazis.
It also shows concern at the spot where they caught it, right? Like, if you have a team and you're supposed to be a professional team, that never should have gotten to the point where I saw it, right? Like, if you wrote something ridiculous like that, and you and I have the same ideology, so I'm helping you write this stuff, I'm like, this is cool, and then Ramsey is our editor. Ramsey should have someone there. By the time it gets to Ramsey, it should be like, did you realize what this is? Like, you know we need to sell this, and no.
Yes.
Like, that's a reason to be like, 2 strikes, you're out.
Yeah, and I think that they needed to show that with the reaction, they needed to show they made some sort of significant change. But it doesn't look like anyone lost their job, nor do I think they should. People did get death threats. People were hunting down these people, finding the writers, and then attacking on social media the wrong persons. Like one of the guys, I was reading an article. He published he saw this happening. He wrote a review about these books in the PDF version, and he said he started a petition that this needs to not come out. They need to change this. This is not okay. This should have been caught in editing. But that petition led to this crazy uproar, and much like this is our modern age of social media, people just went on the rampage and on the attack, and they started attacking. Like, he didn't fact check some of the things specifically, or he or she, I'm actually not sure. So he pulled that when he saw this was happening. He did a subsequent article talking about doing a full detail of the individuals who actually wrote it, what they said, what the responses are, and then some of the blowback. Potentially positive blowback, because it did put a bit of an emphasis in certain circles about what's going on in Chechnya, and it created some public outcry or some, hey, maybe we should, if we really do care about what's happening, if this is something about, maybe we should try to raise some money to try to do something, which is...
Oh, man.
So,
Kickstarter, multi-system Chechnya Quest RPG.
We could have a full supplement, full Chechnya supplement. Werewolf come out, Rage Across Chechnya.
Yeah. No, Rage Across Chechnya sounds bad. The Quest for Chechnya. It's
a werewolf book. Werewolf is Rage Across.
Rage
Across Russia.
That's not what the Kickstarter is. The Kickstarter is a fantasy book where you're questing to save Chechnya.
That's not what White Wolf does. But we're gonna kickstart a whole new thing, a 5th edition supplement.
Multi system.
Just the setting.
Yeah.
So it's just the most offensive thing with.
No, we're not offensive. We're questing for Chechnya.
We are probably at a good place to stop. We're well past time. We played some Vampire. We enjoyed it.
It was good. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was fun to play. We all had pre-gen characters. It was a pre-gen campaign that Ramsey ran, and we had to investigate a murder that was reported to possibly be vampires that were violating the Masquerade and making themselves too aware, or making other people aware that there were vampires. So Summers and I went to go check out one of the crime scenes where the body was found, and I called in a raccoon. I summoned a raccoon, and he told me everything and became my familiar. John went to what? I'm fucking giving a recap.
Nobody cares. It's a pre-published game.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit. No,
the way that recap goes is
nobody's gonna.
We played the demo version of it. It was a lot of fun. Poncho got to summon a raccoon. We might have killed some people. It was a good time.
One of you might have killed some people is that
That's it. That's
No.
all the summary is.
You guys failed. You guys failed your encounter. I got a raccoon familiar. You fucking slap-fought an old man, and Andrew Russ lesed out on some chick.
No one cares about what you did in your game. Like, that is something that is super evident. People tell me that all the time. All the time they call and tell me what their character did. No one gives a fuck.
Also, you totally failed your encounter. You gain no information from that. You get a raccoon, which is not going to help you solve the murder,
Absolutely,
unless it's secretly a detective raccoon. They potentially got information. It's just they may have.
You ended my encounter before I could ask my dog to sniff around.
That's it. That's the product we're making. Let's end this right now. You and I need to work on Detective Raccoon, the RPG.
You have so many RPGs in the back burner, John. You already have the Hall & Oates RPG.
Hall & Oates RPG, although I can't get the licensing.
That's
for
held
that.
up with licensing issues.
Yeah.
There's no Detective Raccoon that I know of.
What was the other RPG, John? There's Hall & Oates. There was one other one, at least, that you want to do.
I want to work on an Alf screenplay.
That's right. There's an Elf screenplay.
Hey, Alf the RPG. It really bothers me how that show ended.
There was a TV movie that gave a little bit of a closure. He went home at the end of the TV movie.
The thing is, the very first episode, Alf lands, and he's like, we have to hide him, because if the scientists find him, the government finds him, they're going to dissect him and kill him.
Yeah.
Right? And the show ends with the government finding him. We know Alf for like 3 or 4 seasons. We get to love him. He's always joking about eating a cat, but it's good-natured cat-eating joking. At the end of the series, we're left to assume the government killed him.
Yes.
He's there. Willie's super worried. The whole family's embracing. Alf is terrified. Lights. I think there was a helicopter. Dude with a bullhorn. He's dead. Yes. Alf is dead.
Yes.
Lovable Alf is dead.
That's why there was no reboot, because he was dead. He
That's
died.
not how you end a sitcom.
They did do a TV.
It's not how you end a sitcom.
You're correct.
So what you're saying is that they continued the story because the TV movie was Alf and all his government friends.
Yes. He made a new friends.
So he was not. Was he dissected at the end of that film?
No, he went home.
There you go, John.
That's not part of the Alf continuum.
Canon? Sure it was. Who the hell?
Here's the thing.
It's like
who the hell made you the fucking canon master of Alf?
We know that Alf didn't die because
he's a puppet.
Alf was a character, and the real Alf went on to host a talk show.
I said I would do it only if I could get a sidekick that was the guy from The Tonight Show. All right? And they told me that Johnny doesn't do television anymore, so we got Ed.
Good to be with you again.
But was there actually, like, after Pat Sajak got kicked off, they put
there
Alf
was an
in?
Alf show, and Alf got the center square, and what was the celebrity tic-tac-toe show called?
Hollywood Squares.
Hollywood Squares. He was the center square a couple times. Alf was a Burger King mascot. You had Chef Alf Puppet. The record was Cooking with Alf.
He had a prequel cartoon.
So what you're saying is Alf.
What I'm saying.
The actor.
Yeah. He
Alf,
didn't die.
the character
But
in the
Alf,
show
the
died.
character in the show, died.
He did
you
not.
Can't,
He became the Alf, the
no,
character in
you
the movie.
can't end a sitcom, especially a lighthearted sitcom. It wasn't a drama sitcom.
You're right. They didn't. They put a little fucking made-for-TV movie to continue it on.
That's not ending the sitcom.
It came out a way later.
Yeah.
It felt like.
Great. So did the Munsters movie. It still was the same thing. You know the Munsters ended?
It's not. The Munsters just stopped, didn't it?
Oh, it ended. They got caught by the government too. And then they came out with a movie that put them in color. Nobody wanted to watch it because they were all like dark green. They were on vacation. I think the Munsters is technically in the Pet Sematary timeline because the guy who played Herman Munster is in the Pet Sematary movie. So I think what happened.
Yeah, but he wasn't a Frankenstein.
No, you're right. No, I know. But when he died,
you can't be a judge as a Frankenstein.
But what I think he wasn't a judge. He was like a farmer or something. Oh, farmer.
Oh, you know what? He was a judge of My Cousin Vinny.
Yes. I think what happened is
man, this guy has a lot of jobs.
Yeah, he's a
farmer, judge,
almost
monster,
like he's an actor.
Frankenstein.
I think he got buried in the Pet Sematary and came back as Herman Munster. So technically, the Pet Sematary is a prequel to the Munsters.
My neighbor's a farmer and also a Frankenstein.
And a judge.
So we'd like to close out our first episode with some community involvement. So we reached out to our Facebook community, our old Amorous Armadillo game shop friend community.
Older.
Who John adores. And wanted to see.
That's not hyperbole.
John has said many times he adores that community and he misses the people that he met there. And I think Poncho, do you miss anybody?
I miss a lot of people. Some people I don't.
I don't miss anybody. I don't. You know.
Because you're a nihilist.
Yeah. But we did ask for some comments, and you posted a little picture that we happen to still have in the Armadillo. And the comments were basically Ryan Laveau.
Lavoie. Or Lavoie, not Lebeau.
Laveau. So it's Lavoie or Lavoie?
Yes!
It's either of those things are
Yes.
appropriate?
Either of those are appropriate. I've heard it pronounced both by him and his kin.
Ryan.
Pretty boy Ryan.
Yeah. He doesn't know when there was a fish tank. And then David Ew. Is it Ew? Man, why do people have so freaking weird last names? Is it Ew?
You!
David Ew.
Yeah. The ginger. Yeah. The Winge and Ginge.
This is just a lot of pointing out fish tank stuff. It's really like we asked for like comments or things about gaming, and there's just one fish tank comment.
So here's the thing.
When was there a fish tank?
Here's the thing, right? Whatever your comments are, we'll answer them. Or questions. So there was never a fish tank in the store. We had an aquarium. I put an aquarium in because all of a sudden our cash wrap went from something in a corner of a room to the center of the store, and there was like this weird, you can see through, so I wanted a barrier. I also read that running water helps with stale smells, right? And it was never a fish tank because fish are gross.
There were fish in there.
No, there was never fish in there. I had snails in there.
No, there was fish. We had fish.
Mike Pascal does comment the fact that it was in fact a snail tank.
Yeah, there were snails, but we had some fish in there because that's how we had the Sam Kinison fish. There was a fish whose jaw never closed.
You're right.
And there was the
You're
Sam Kinison fish.
Yep.
That's how I found out that Sam Kinison was
You're
a
right.
person in existence.
But fish are gross. So we had like 6 different generations of snails. I'm surprised Ryan said he doesn't remember it because one of the apple snails was named Snail Ryan.
Also, if you look close in that picture, you can look back and you can see cherubic Andrew Summers a while ago, and you can see our good friend Tom Gross winning at War Machine, which is something he always did. Tom Gross. If you saw Tom Gross in the store, he was winning at War Machine.
Oh, but that's it. That's our thing. That's the thing that we did. Poncho, last words?
We're gonna try to do this a lot. This is an effort to get some more content going quicker. We're still small and new, and we only have.
Use your words, sir. Use your words.
John, any closing words? Any last thoughts?
It was fun making this. We hope you enjoy it so we can make more things. And even if you don't enjoy it, we're still going to make more things. That's a threat.
We would like some comments as to what you like here, what you don't like. Any things you want us to talk about, topics, ideas.
Ooh, just punched my microphone.
I appreciate that.
It was pretty good. But we want to talk more about gaming, the store, kind of build that community back up and talk about the people in the store. I have other memories, Movie Place being the place where I gamed a lot. But
everybody had a place.
I think everyone
Not
does.
everybody had a place.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people who gamed...
Chechens didn't have a place.
Chechens.
Who are you to speak for everybody?
Yeah, they were.
Some of the Chechens might have a place.
Maybe some of them, but not all of them.
Many of the Chechens stayed in Yakim's basement.
Sure, but not all of them. Everybody had a place.
The under the bridge.
Under the bridge comic
Under
shop.
the bridge comic shop in Chechnya. Gotham, Chechnya. Where our vampire game now is taking place. We don't have a closing thing, so goodbye, everybody.